And on with the tips and tricks. So I apologize I cannot be present this afternoon, but I'll try to keep things sped up a little bit. I know everyone's kind of running low on time here, but this is some nice tips and tricks, hopefully, that'll help everybody out. So let's just go ahead and dive in. Excluding inactive customers, vendors, items, inventory items, and as well as employees from your search options. If you have inactive customers and vendors, inventory items, or employees, and you want them hid from your lookup options, make sure that those records are marked to inactive. And once you do that lookup, you're able to click the drop down in the view option, and then you're able to exclude inactive customers or inactive payroll employees or inactive vendors and items. And then you'll go ahead and save that default view, and the next time that you go ahead and do that lookup class, it'll restrict your inactive vendors, customers, inventory items, and employees. This is a nice new feature under cash receipts for finding the customer by using the invoice number. So during cash receipts, oftentimes a customer will send in a cash receipt and you'll get it and you'll start looking at it. You won't necessarily know who the customer is or who the customer ID is. So most of the time what they'll do is they'll reference the invoice number that they're paying that's associated with the check. So what you can do is you can enter in a cash receipt and you'll locate by the document number lookup class. Then you can go ahead and type in that invoice number. And what it'll do is it'll automatically pull in that customer ID for you. So it's a helpful way of navigating through without having to pull that customer item. In GP 2016 R2, there is a feature for Payables Management which links your credit card invoices to the original invoice, which makes it much easier from a traceability standpoint when a credit card payment comes in and you have no idea what invoice it was applied to or what checkbook it's supposed to be coming out of. It makes it a little bit difficult without having to go back into the payables transaction inquiry window, reviewing those multiple documents, and you really have no link that allows you to go back to search by the credit card payment from where that transaction originated from. So as a new feature in GP 2016 R2, in the payables transaction window, what you'll do is go ahead and enter in your AP transaction as normal. And then you'll create you'll create a manual payment and apply the manual payment to the invoice using a payment method of credit card, and that credit card will then be linked. And then this creates a new invoice to be paid for the vendor associated to the credit card used for that payment. And it gives you a nice little description at the bottom so you know where it's coming from. And I don't know if most of you guys have used this feature, but something that's difficult is that when you run your reconcile the GL report, these transactions would have previously come up as unmatched transactions, which makes it very difficult to reconcile. So now what that functionality will do is it'll match up the original payables management transactions with the associated credit card payment that was issued, and it makes it much easier to reconcile because everything will then match in the reconcile the GL report. The purchasing and sales all-in-one view. Purchasing all-in-one was released back in GP 2015, and the sales all-in-one view was released in GP 2016. So it's possible to view the related purchasing or sales documents in one window. So from the customer or the vendor maintenance window, there is an all-in-one view, and what you're able to do is you're able to select on that vendor and look at all of those related invoices or quotes or purchase orders that were associated with the receivables or payables transactions. And it gives you the functionality to really dig into the details of where the transactions originated from, where they came from, so that it's easier and you're not navigating around through the system to see what quote was attached to the order or the payment and such. One of the nice filter options in the sales options is that you're able to select which columns and document types that you want to display. So if quotes or orders aren't applicable to you, or credits and returns, you can go ahead and filter those out so it's a little bit easier cosmetically on the eyes. Then you can do a little bit further filter to include saved invoices, historical invoices posted, and then you can do some nice filter ranges in there as well to filter down those options. Also, this goes date ascending, so it'll go by your document date for your first 5 records, and then it'll continue to go. Using the receivables transaction unapply tool is very helpful for those that are running the pay transaction removal process. Once those documents are moved from an open status to a fully applied historical status, you can't unapply those documents in the history tables. What they do is they automatically move to the historical tables, and then you can't go back and reapply those records as needed. So through the professional service tools library, what you're able to do is you're able to unapply those transactions, and then it'll go ahead and GP will go ahead, and even if there's discounts or write-offs that are associated with those documents, you're not going to lose any of those records. You can just simply unapply them, and then you can reapply the records as needed. And it's a great alternative versus having to go in and removing the history and re-entering those transactions if in the event that they were applied incorrectly. Something nice in Professional Service Tools Library, it's a little bit of a combination of both, but what master records can be combined or modified. So previously, PSTL maintained the account modifier and combiner and item number combiner and modifier, as well as for vendors and customers. They moved it around a little bit on us. So now in GP 2015 and later, PSTL only utilizes that functionality in the financials tool and the inventory tools. For customers and vendors, those are going to be found under the utilities for the customer combiner and vendor combiner and modifier. And remember, users should typically be out of the system for most of these maintenance procedures, and don't forget your backups, because oftentimes somebody will come back and say, oh, we merged the wrong vendor, we merged the wrong customer, and there is no way to reverse it unless you restore from a backup. Using SmartList to find out who, what, where, when. Sounds like I'm talking to my high school teenagers. Who, what, where, when, why. Under SmartList, under financial transactions, you want to know where the transaction originated, who entered it, what was it originated from, where did that transaction come from, when was the original posting date. In SmartList, what you're able to do is add in those columns, and it gives you that visibility of who posted it, when it was posted, where it was posted, and where it originated from. And to do that, you would just go into account maintenance and go ahead and add those appropriate fields on in that you need. You can also add the customer and vendor info into the GL transaction. So you can specify which customer or which vendor was associated with that general ledger transaction, making it much easier to navigate and figure out where the originating transaction was coming from. So this is a little bit of an oldie but goodie now. So we've got our copy paste journal entries from Excel. And this feature allows you to copy journal entries from Excel into the transaction entry window of General Ledger. So you'll go ahead and set up an Excel spreadsheet with 4 columns, and it's very specific in the format that's required. So you'll need description, the description in column A, B is the account, C is the debit, D is the credit. If you fill in that data, you don't necessarily need to have a description, but the description column needs to be in your Excel spreadsheet. Oftentimes people don't have a description necessarily for every transaction, but it is nice when you have line item descriptions and your GL level detail. And in support, we have had a couple of topics where users haven't had the appropriate security rights. So if you receive an error message saying that you don't have that rights, from a security standpoint, go ahead and look at this task ID and make sure that they have access to the GL transaction paste validation report as well. The keyboard and Windows shortcut, so the little things in life that help. On your keyboard within the Dynamics GP application, it's very easy to set up keyboard and Windows shortcuts. So on your home page, you have the ability to add shortcuts on the navigation pane off to the left-hand side. And when you add those shortcuts, you're able to set up keyboard shortcuts for your F1 through F12 keys up at the top of your keyboard. So if you're in customer maintenance all the time, boom, you can hit F12 and that'll open up the customer maintenance window. And just some quick little keyboard tricks, your undo, Control Z, copy paste, etc. Your select all would be Control A, lookup, Control L. When you want to close a window, you can go ahead and click that Control W. If you want to access the help windows in Microsoft Dynamics, you can select the Control H option. And if you want to print from any window, you can select the Control P.